The the NFL draft begins tomorrow. We are full-fledged into the NBA playoffs, and great guest, great time. It's always a great time to talk to Dave Pasch.
Yeah.
But he's got his hands all over both of those things as play-by-play voice of the Cardinals, ESPN broadcaster, and he joins us now on Bickley and Marotta mornings. Dave, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Hey, this video thing is pretty cool. I'm just glad that I'm doing this with you guys instead of Wolf. You're a lot easier on the eyes than staring at Wolf for 15 minutes.
The RTV just went to a screensaver, so I can't see you as I look at the monitor. We're going to get that fixed because I do appreciate you coming on video link wise. Let's start with we'll start with football. We'll start with the draft. And look, we heard the teaser from Wolf. Should they go with a speedster or should they go with a mauler? The possibilities are really endless at number 16. I'll ask you this. Who are some of the players? There you are, Dave. Who are some of the players that could fall into that range that might make sense in your mind for the Cardinals?
Well, if you listen to Wolf and you've listened for 30 seconds at some point in the last month, and that's all you need to listen to, you know who he wants, Tyler Booker.
Yes.
It's written in blood somewhere. I think that there are probably 6 to 8 guys that the Cardinals have in mind that they hope would be there. And if, maybe somebody slips that they don't have in that group, they'll consider. But I got to think there are a number of names in there. I mean, I would just be regurgitating the same names that you guys have talked about or read about. I think position does matter because if you have guys that are similarly graded, you're going to look at position, you're going to look at need, and I think offensive line, defensive line are probably the most important things. I don't think it's a quarterback, a running back, a safety, or even a receiver. I really don't in the first round. It would surprise me if they went receiver. I think it's probably on the bigger side, one of the big guys, and then maybe a corner, depending on who's there.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I do not think the team under any circumstance would draft a wide receiver at 16, but I'm curious, do you think they need to add that speed piece at some point? Are you comfortable with the wide receiver room as it currently stands?
I think they should at some point, Dan, add a receiver. I think you clearly have your top 2 weapons in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. James Conner is a good receiver out of the backfield. Michael Wilson has proven he can be a solid NFL player. Can he be more than that? I think he's a key. Greg Dortch, you kind of know what you have there. But yeah, I think second, third, fourth round, they need to add somebody to that room. I think this draft has to be all about how do we best help Kyler Murray. If he's our quarterback going forward, and certainly for this year he is, how do we best support him? And that's with giving him weapons, protecting him, and getting edge rushers that can get him on the field, meaning your defense is off the field and he's out there. So those are the things that I'm concerned with up on the Cardinals.
Dave Pasch, our guest here on Bickley and Marotta mornings. Dave, obviously the play-by-play voice of the Cardinals, also does a lot of college football for ESPN during college football season. Regardless of connection to the Cardinals, but who are some of the players you saw last season that made your jaw drop that are in this draft class? For me, the guy that stands out more than anybody that I watched was Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, who's going to go really high. Who are some of those guys for you, Dave?
Well, Travis Hunter is one of the biggest freaks I've ever seen. I cannot talk highly enough about him and his talent. I think he's a corner that will play wide receiver. Pat Shurmur, I did the full game, and I remember talking to Pat Shurmur, who is known as a curmudgeon, and he could not have spoken highly enough, first of all, about Shedeur Sanders, but also about Travis Hunter. And his recommendation, I think he's given this recommendation to, I'm sure all the people he knows in the NFL, is you got to play him 2 ways. You can't just limit him. He's that good. But realistically, he's got to be one or the other because he can't play 100 snaps a game. So I imagine he's a corner, and he's going to be a shutdown corner and probably immediately one of the best corners in the league. And then you play him on offense because he's so dynamic. And Abdul Carter from Penn State's another guy. He's the best pass rusher in my mind. Jahdae Barron's another guy who I really love at Texas. His personality, his character, all that fits, I think, the Cardinals. Then there's, 4 or 5 other guys I could mention, but, the best player to me is Travis Hunter. Mm-hmm. I would take him first overall. I think he's a generational player,
Wow.
but I get that Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Yes.
I think the Cardinals are in a really good position at 16 because whether they take Jahdae Barron or somebody else, I think it's going to be well received because I think that fans are very satisfied with what Monty has done to this point in the offseason. What's your comfort level? What's your level of excitement based on what the team has added since last year?
So far, so good, guys. I think this is kind of the year you go for it. The first year when you're in this new regime, you're trying to, you're really, it's addition by or subtraction. You're getting rid of as many people as possible that don't fit your culture, and that's what Monty had to do. He had to come in and basically trim the roster from guys that he didn't think could play and didn't think would be good in the locker room. So that's year one. Last year, now that you've shaped your roster and you have your nucleus in place, you're trying to add bigger pieces. This is the year you go for it. We all know in this league, it's hard if you don't win after 3 years. You got to keep your job. Not saying anybody's job is in jeopardy, but just in general, when you look at the NFL and how this league works, you got to win this year. So you got to go for it. And I'm sure that's how Monty feels. It's how JG feels. You can't be reckless. Obviously, you've got to be smart. And you still have to build for the future. But this is the year that you try to really make that leap. And I think some of the moves they've made here in the offseason say that that's their thinking as well. And I think it's very wise.
Dave Pasch, our guest here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings, want to tap into some NBA playoff talk as well. Dave, you had up close and personal look at that beatdown in Oklahoma City, the Thunder over the Grizzlies on Sunday. They looked really strong again. Every time I watch the Thunder play, I'm more and more convinced that they can do it this year. They are just so connected and so bought in. Is anybody going to challenge them in the West in your mind?
Well, as the late, great Bill Walton used to say, Oklahoma City won by an incalculable margin. I should have said that on the air. I really should have. That's my only regret. But I think at that point, my brain was mush, having watched that nonsense for a game. They are so good. Mark Daignault, he is terrific. To me, he's the next Eric Spoelstra. I think we're going to be talking about him for a long time in the NBA. He's 40 years old. He was coach of the year, runner-up, the year before that. And obviously he's not going to win it this year, but he's one of the best in the league. And they're so young and talented. I mean, they're going to be great for a long time. I think they could be challenged. I think the Clippers would make for a very interesting series. And I think the Lakers still would be a challenge for them. But to me, they're the best team, and it's not close. I do have Boston Friday. To me, Boston, Oklahoma City are the two best teams. I'd almost be surprised at this point if they don't meet in the finals. But it's the NBA. If the playoffs are great, man. It's been fantastic already. It's only been a week. I can't wait for more this weekend.
All right, last question. The playoffs are going on without the Phoenix Suns. I'm not sure if you saw the end of the season press conference for them, but being around a lot of really well-functioning organizations, what should the pivot point be for the team? What should maybe they be focusing on now that they've got to kind of trade Kevin Durant and rebuild around Devin Booker? Are there any points that they should really be focusing on to make this a little less painful?
They're in a really tough spot because of the financial situation. First and foremost, they have to figure out their structure. I guess you could say identity, but structure first. Figure out your structure and then figure out your identity. Who's making the decisions? How many people do we really need in the front office? Can we empower people to make decisions? And then you go from there and you find your coach based on that. You figure out your structure in your front office and your identity, and then you find a coach that fits that identity. I don't care if that coach is 22 or 62. I don't care if that coach has no championships or 5 championships. I don't think you rule out anybody. I was a little surprised by that comment that we're not, necessarily going to get somebody that's won a championship. I think you need to look at, I'm sure, young assistants that have had some success or been around good organizations, been in good organizations. I think somebody like Jeff Van Gundy should get a look. Jeff's done a great job with the defense of the Clippers. I don't think that he's too old at this point to be running a franchise. I think he or somebody like him if you go back to when the Suns hired Monty Williams, Stan Van Gundy was the runner-up. And I think, Monty did a great job and was a great hire here. But I think they need somebody like a Jeff, like a Stan, that's old school, but also knows how to relate to players.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of young coaches that fit that too. Willie Green, if he isn't in New Orleans, he's somebody that I think fits that and obviously knows a lot of the players on the roster.
Dave, thanks again for joining us via video. We're starting to do this a little bit more, but you are the first video guest we've had with multiple Emmy awards
That's
in
what
the
I was going to say.
backdrop. So.
That's quite a flex back there. There's some Peabodys back there. What's back there besides those Emmys?
First of all, they're regional Emmys, so it's not like
it's not like
it. It's not like I got it, from General Hospital, the daytime Emmy. And then we have some. I guess these are the Arizona broadcast. My wife does all this. She does all this. The Arizona Broadcasters of the Year. And then we've got some other stuff up here. I used to have a bunch of Walton stuff up here, but it's you can't see it. It's kind of off camera here.
Gotcha. Well, still quite the flex.
Yeah.
Dave, always good to talk to you. Thanks for the time, man.
All right.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.